Welcome to another episode of Girl Dad Cheat Codes. In the last episode, in case you missed it, we talked about how to prepare to be a girl dad before your child is even born. Now we're taking a large time skip to preparing for college.
Yes. Yeah, the college decision is very important. And, and not everybody goes to college, but
Mhm.
in this case, we're assuming somebody that wants to go to college because that's all I've dealt with. Two girls that both went to college. So we're going to talk about um, your college decision and what all went into that. And, I think you can give some valuable insight
Mhm.
as well as I can give the girl dad perspective on it.
Mhm. Awesome. So, what are the biggest differences between when my sister and I went to college, which I am a sophomore in college, and my sister graduated a few years ago,
Mhm.
versus when you and my mom went to college?
Okay. The college search process was totally different back then because I believe the internet existed, but none of us could actually do anything on it. So when we looked at colleges, you either had to know the college existed or you went to your counselor's office and he had a bunch of books. You could just get the book off the shelf and look at it. Or there's another book that was
Oh, like
just,
in the movies.
yes, there's another book that was just full of all the colleges' names, the phone number for their admissions, and you call them and say, "Hey, can you send me a catalog and some sort of campus description?" And that's all you had to go by. So, when I don't want to get too much into when I chose my first college, but I had very little information to go on. You didn't really know the cost or anything. All you had was, "Hey, I know Johnny goes there or Bobby goes there, and I think I know about what they pay." You didn't have any information on scholarships, none of the information that you had at your fingertips now. So we were kind of in the dark. So unless it was a college in your area, it was really tough to know anything about it.
Interesting. Um, so how, I mean, you talked a little about it, but how is this different than when you looked at colleges or when you helped my sister and I look at colleges?
Okay. Well, when I helped you guys, there was so much more that we were able to look at. We could do internet searches. We could find out, if the college even had a program that you're interested in. We could find out what the costs were, calculators and other things, and ratings, and even outcomes.
Hmm.
So you could find out, how many people that go there graduate 4 years. How many of those that graduate have, jobs in a certain number of time. They publish all that information. None of that existed when, back in the 90s. It just did not exist when I graduated. So it's interesting what all is out there
Hmm.
now that you can make a good informed decision. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today
Yeah.
is an informed decision, a decision that involves a college that you can afford and one that you belong at. And that's something that's all has to go into the formula to decide where you're going. It can't just be this is my dream school and that's just it. No rhyme or reason why, but there's got to be more to it than just that. There's so many things that go into it.
Exactly. So, when did you start looking at colleges with Isabel, who
Um,
is his older daughter,
yeah,
my
with
sister?
your older sister and with you a little bit. I started looking and discussing it about junior high, because I knew that's a path she was going to want to be on, and you too. I knew that she didn't want to just graduate and go right into the workforce. So it's something that early on I wanted to have that discussion. We needed to talk about, thinking of a lot of things, setting expectations as to, what can be afforded. You had to think about, and your sister, where do I want to be? Do I want to be clear across the country? Do I want to be somewhere where I can, access my mom and dad in my home? Am I going to be one that just comes home at Thanksgiving and Christmas, spring break, and when it's over? I mean, these are a lot of things that you really have to think of, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to look within yourself and say, who am I? What do I want to do? What am I trying to accomplish here as
Yeah.
well? So I think the earlier you can start kind of having these conversations, set expectations, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of dragged into these conversations, I guess you could say, because Isabel was going through the college
Yeah.
search while I was in junior high. Um,
Yeah, and I think that was good for you because we took you on a few of her visits. You were able to see, I mean, I kind of coached her a lot on how she should, and we'll talk about that a little bit, on what you do on a visit,
Mhm.
and how she needed to take the lead on the visit and do the speaking, have questions ready, things like that. And then that was also something you were ready to
Mhm.
do, and you know, you're very verbal and you like to talk anyway, so that worked great with you.
I remember one of the visits we went on for her, a the prospective golf coach took us out for
Yeah.
lunch. And he's like, "Wow, he's like, you've drank like 3 waters." I'm like, "Well, they told me I'm not allowed to
Yeah,
talk at
yeah,
this,
that was your
so."
instructions. Don't talk, don't say anything unless you have questions asked. That was, and you did a good job that day.
Uh-huh.
You just sat there and you were good, and you wanted to talk a lot
Uh-huh.
because that's what you do. But
I
yeah,
I am very
that was kind
talkative.
of funny. Yeah, he's like, so you'd finished your drinks, you'd finished your plate, everything done, and you're just sitting there, and he's like, wow, you ate fast. But that was kind of funny. But like I said, that's I wanted to expose you to that a
Mhm.
little bit at an early age, so you could just
Yeah.
see what it's about, and then just know kind of what you're going to do someday as well.
So, how big of role should a father play in helping their kid decide on college,
I
do you
think
think?
I think the role should be more of a guiding role, and to just help set expectations, I guess, from the start. Um, you want to be involved in kind of helping her understand who she is, because she
Mhm.
may fall in love with the idea. Hey, I'm going to Hawaii to go to school. It sounds awesome. I'll be at the beach every day. Can you afford it? Um, is that really your best choice? Are you going to want to come home? You got to kind of ask the questions and just help be a guide. I really think that's the father's job. And on girl dad, being a girl dad, sometimes emotion can get into these decisions with girls, maybe a little more than boys. And you have to kind of manage that too, in case there
I'm
is,
gonna follow my boyfriend to
yeah,
college.
exactly. In case there's some sort of a situation like that that doesn't make a lot of sense, you want to be there to help kind of steer them back to the right decision. So um, that's what I think your job is as a dad in this case, and to say, hey, this is the budget too, which we'll talk about a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so just go off of that, what are ways that you can do that, that you can help guide um your daughter through this decision process?
Yeah. Well, there's a first few things that you can do in the first years there, and that's to help prepare her. So one of the things are, let's look at what classes we're taking in high school. You have a lot of choices.
Mhm.
Um, you know, you were not going to be a math major, so why are we taking higher level math courses that you don't really need to take? What are we gaining? You also, I mean, it would make, to me, it'd make as much sense for you to take an upper level, trigonometry course that you're not going to need for your major,
Yeah.
as it would if you would have done metal shop.
Yeah.
What are you doing in that class? You have no reason to be there. So take classes that are going to lend themselves to what you want to
Yeah.
do someday. And so I think that's part of the thing. I think a lot of schools seem to push people to take the harder classes.
Especially in STEM.
Yeah, STEM classes, things like that. And if that's not what you're into, then what are we doing trying to chase that? I don't know whose purposes you're serving there. I don't think anybody's. So that's one of the things that I kind of tried to play that down a little bit, is like, hey, maybe we don't need to do that. And I was kind of that voice in the room a lot of times when the teachers or the counselors would say, hey, you could take this class. I think you'd be great. But but why? What are we accomplishing? Because if we're not accomplishing anything, what are we doing? So that's kind of, I wanted to be that voice a little bit. I think also just being supportive, checking in on grades. Now I never really
Mhm.
had to do a lot of that because
Yeah.
you got great
I
grades.
I was gonna say, I think you may have been in a kind of unique position here where you had two very driven
Yeah,
daughters
yeah,
that were very academically
that
focused.
made it easy because grades were always in check, homework was always done. I asked about it, and I looked at my emails I got from the school, and if there would have been a problem, I would have asked questions. There's other things that we could figure out though. AP classes,
Mhm.
dual credit classes. Those I think existed when I was in school, but it was nothing I was ever going to be taking. And I think we had to like drive to a community college like 25 miles away if we wanted to do that. And it just again, that's something that didn't make sense for me. It did for you. It did for your sister. But again, um, what are we trying to accomplish with
Yeah.
those? Are these actually going to help you? And a lot of schools have websites now that will tell you that
Yeah.
this course will come in as this and work as this credit for your major.
Yeah, usually you can find like a spreadsheet that'll say like everything. I know whenever I got
Hmm.
my AP scores in, I would go to the colleges that I was thinking about, and be like, okay, this will transfer, this won't, or
Yes.
whatever.
Yep. Your sister did the same thing, and that was great because again, things that didn't exist that I think parents need to be aware of that do exist
Hmm.
are these things that show how things transfer.
Yeah.
What I mean, you could pull up at the school what your major would be and how these classes
Hmm.
would plug in.
Yeah.
So you know, am I going to be there 2 years? I'm going to be there 4 years.
Yeah.
Do I have time now to double, triple major?
Hmm.
Do I want to just get out and get a job as quick as possible? Those are the
Yeah.
decisions
Yeah.
that now you can make.
Because I've heard multiple times at college,
Hmm.
girls that are like, or and guys,
Yeah.
they're like, my counselor's so stupid. This won't transfer, so I have to take this class again. You could have known this before you even went here.
take
Like,
take responsibility for your decisions. Even at this age, when you were 16, 17,
mm-hmm.
you still knew, you kind of knew what you wanted to do, and you knew you wanted to go to college. Figure out where that all goes, and I
Yeah.
think that's something that's really important, that um, that your daughter takes responsibility and takes kind of that driver's seat control. But also, as a girl dad, I need to watch that and see, does this make sense? Is she
Mm-hmm.
putting too much stress on herself? Because maybe it's better to take some of these classes in college with a college professor teaching you, and college classmates that are asking the proper questions, that
Mm-hmm.
have the proper background to take it, instead of just rushing into it too
Yeah.
fast. And I think that's something that I can kind of see happening. Um,
Oh yeah, I think Isabel and I both did that at
yeah,
times.
yeah,
Um.
yeah. And I was always kind of on the other end where I was like, I'm not sure this makes sense. And then this kind of moves into a next area I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
talk about a little bit, was mental health.
Yeah.
um, Mental health. Now, when I was in school, this is also way different, and
Yeah.
probably for any of the dads that are going to watch this, it's way different. We didn't have feelings. You didn't show stress. You didn't show pain.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't show any of that. That was all. That was going to be looked at as weakness,
Yeah.
and that's really changed in the 30 some years
Yeah.
since I've
Yeah.
been in
For
school.
sure.
And
Since you've been continuously in school.
well, since I was out of school, and yeah, I'm a lifelong learner. But no, but that's all changed, and I think the stresses have changed too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I didn't have a lot to worry about. I had some pretty basic classes in school, play sports after school, go home. Your classes were more difficult. There's more on the line when you start thinking about, oh, this will be on my college GPA.
Mm-hmm.
It wears on you differently, and I
Yeah.
think it wear on you guys differently. And that's something that, as a father, I didn't like seeing a whole lot of.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I had a lot I could do to help, other than just check in,
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, how are you doing, which I tried to do.
Which I think is more
And
than a lot of parents.
yeah, yeah, probably, because I think I could see some things every once in a while that I thought, I need to ask the questions
Mm-hmm.
here. What's going on with you? Are you okay? um, and just ask the question. And then that kind of opens that door for
Mm-hmm.
conversation if there needs to be one. There might not need to be one. There might need to be one. But if you just say, hey, I don't know what her deal is, and just go to the garage, you have no way of helping. So that's one of my things. You got to check in with your girls. Just make sure that everything's processing good. Are they having friend problems? Are they worried about grades? What is happening with them? You got to ask the question, or you'll never know. They're not usually going to volunteer that to you.
For sure, because especially with girls, I know we talked about this in the AP psychology class I took. Guys are more likely to be outward with their emotions. So if they do have mental illnesses or whatever,
Hmm.
that's going to be more outward things like anger issues
Yeah,
or like maybe schizophrenia, like that kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, versus women are much more likely to go inwards, so anxiety, depression,
that makes
things that
sense.
you wouldn't see necessarily unless you're like, you're very much looking for that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And you know, um, when I was younger and I was in school, I had more outlets than you did to
Mhm.
deal with that, with just like playing sports. I
Yeah.
mean, to get out and work. work your body through things and run and do the things that we did, basketball, football. I wasn't an awesome athlete,
Mhm.
but it was an outlet to, I guess, release some of that.
Yeah, which once again, that's an outward
Yeah,
way
it's a
of
way to do that, as you
doing that.
said, a lot of boys will do.
Mhm.
And you really don't have that. You wasn't. I mean, you played tennis, so I'm going to
Mhm.
give you credit. You were, we'll say, an athlete,
Yeah.
but you didn't. It wasn't. It was 6 weeks,
Yeah, yeah. And
so
like I do
that's a
know
different thing.
many girls in high school had more of that.
Yeah,
I was never that interested in that. You're
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So, but anyway, that's why I think that those are the things to check on. Just it's supporting, make sure they're taking the right classes, check in to make sure she's doing all right mentally, and make sure that what we're taking makes sense. Where's it
Yeah,
leading to?
yeah, for sure. Okay. So while we're on that,
Hmm.
we're thinking about, the classes we're taking or whatever. How important are grades and testing and everything in your opinion?
I think, well, they're very important, but I don't know that you can stress them too much. And here's kind of the reason why before those. First of all, they're important because a lot of your scholarships
Mhm.
are going to be based on GPA, and whether you take an ACT or another type of test
Mhm.
like that, they're looking at that for scholarships. That's very important. But I don't know that you can press on that because she can only do what she can do.
Mhm.
So if you are not a person who's going to be able to take an ACT and get a 35, then you're not going to get a 35. But you can work on the other things like the test prep books and the things like
Mhm.
that. And you can work with your daughter on this because I did. I
Yeah.
made sure you did that. And it's something that it's very important because it's going to change what schools you can get into, as we looked at several, and it's like, how would this work out if I
Mhm.
can get in with my GPA, my ACT? It's going to change what it costs you to go to that school. So each year, the scholarships you receive are going to go back to your high school GPA. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure, as we're starting seventh, eighth grade, if we're thinking about going to college, let's think about keeping our grades in check, because that's gonna open doors that may not be open
Yeah,
someday,
for sure.
because there are a lot more. Everybody, all the press goes to kids signing their basketball or football scholarships. There's a lot more money in education scholarships
Mhm.
and a lot more opportunities to get those,
Yeah.
as you find out
Yeah. I
as you go
remember
down the road.
we were talking about the ACT coming up at
Hmm.
lunch one day, and I was talking about, studying for that, getting ready. And this boy that sits at our table goes, well, I don't really worry about that because I'll get a band scholarship.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'll make the money.
yeah, that might get you 1,500.
I'm sure he has a full ride
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I mean, for most of those, a lot of those scholarships, will give you one, but it's 1,500, it's 2,000. It's just to get you there. It's like a discount, is really all it is. And those are the things. Like I said, the GPA, do your best. Now, I don't think you can push, because I didn't want to put stress on you guys, which I didn't have to because you're over 4 point anyway. But I think if I had a parent where it's more of a challenge, I would have understood that more, because I was never going to be a
Hmm.
4.0 student.
And I know there were kids that were in the advanced class who were getting grades similar to us whose parents were pushing them, who are like, well,
Yeah,
this, you gotta be?
yeah,
What?
yeah. And that's something I would have never done, as long as I knew you tried.
Yeah.
I mean, if I see the homework getting done, if I see the effort, then I don't know. It'd be like telling a kid that doesn't run fast they need to run faster. You either can or you can't, and that's something you have to accept. What are the limitations? What are the things that can realistically be accomplished?
Hmm.
And that's what you got to go with. And not compare to other kids
Yeah.
too. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. You can't compare to. I mean, I can't compare you to your sister. You're two totally different people. You have totally different goals. You're both good kids. You both did well in school. I have no complaints there. But your personalities aren't the same, and the way you look at things are totally different. So that's something you have to look at too. You can't say, you know, Sarah down the road. I mean, she got a 36. You got a
Hmm.
34. You go to the same school. What's wrong? I mean, that's not the way you can approach any of that. So I think that's something that that you have to look at, is
Yeah.
what realistically can you do, and let's maximize that.
Yeah. I will say, if they're not doing the homework, if they're not studying at all,
Hmm.
then you can.
Then you got
Then
something
you
to
have
talk
free
about.
reign.
Then you got something to talk
But
about.
I totally agree
Hmm.
with you.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so being a male,
Hmm.
and just, going on college visits with us, do you see any major differences between boys and girls with their attitudes towards higher education?
Well, I I think so, and that's something I wondered what you see too, because
Mm-hmm.
you're at college now. You're a
Yes.
freshman, and it
I'm a
was interesting.
sophomore.
Well, okay, you finished your freshman year, so it was interesting on one of the visits I was with your sister. We were speaking with a golf coach again,
Mm-hmm.
and he asked her, like, how are your grades? Because that's one of the first things they want to know. And she's, 4 point whatever, and he's like, yep, yep. How's your ACT? She told him. He's like, yeah. And he's like, do you have any questions? And she says, yeah. And she opens up her binder. He's like, he said, this is so much different than the boys. He said, the girls, all of them I visit, almost every girl that comes in, she's dressed nice. She might have a skirt on or something. She's going to have, her grades are in order. Her test scores are in order. And she has a list of questions that she wants to ask. She is
Mm-hmm.
prepared. It's like the boys come in and it's a pair of gym shorts, maybe a hat on backwards, and he said, and they have no idea what to say or do, and they're just there, and she's and I think that's kind of how I was,
Yeah.
when because I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't really care where.
Mm-hmm.
And back then you couldn't really plan either. But I guess you have a better sense of this because you are in college
Mm-hmm.
and you've been around boys your age. Did you see? I guess there's two things. First of all, I think there's a lot of boys that don't go to college because there's a lot of opportunities for them in
Yeah.
fields that don't have college. That don't need that. So that's one thing, which is great. I mean, not everybody needs to go to
Mm-hmm.
college, and not everybody should go to college. So, but the ones that you see that went, do you feel like they
Mm-hmm.
were preparing like a lot of the girls or not?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, this is all going to be generalizations,
Of course.
but you're right. Absolutely, there's less guys going to college. There's less girls going to college too, but more
Hmm.
so guys. I know my school and most have more girls at them than guys
Yeah,
at universities,
almost everyone. When we looked at them online, we saw that.
which is inconvenient for someone trying to get a boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, what can you do?
That's another episode.
Yes,
Um,
actually, it is.
yeah. Uh, but then the second half of your question, I mean, I think it's a maturity thing. We've all heard, oh,
Oh yeah,
guys mature slower than girls. There is actually truth to that.
there's a lot. I'm very
Uh
immature, and I'm
huh.
in my 50s now,
I
and
don't think you get to blame that on
I
your
was not
sex,
ready to
but
be out on my own when my freshman,
yeah,
sophomore years of
yeah,
college. I was way too immature.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, there's definitely a difference in
Hmm.
maturity
Yeah.
at my age. I know less so now that I'm in college, but I know like in high school, back to taking the ACT, there was a guy who halfway through was like, "Well, I didn't bring a calculator. Does anyone have an extra?"
Can't happen.
Also, on the math portion, afterwards he had a break, and you're not supposed to talk about the test, but everyone talks about the test.
Yeah.
Um, I hear one guy talking to his friend. He's like, "Yeah, I only answered 30 out of the 60 questions."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, "So if you got all those right, you had a 50."
Yeah, and that
This just
comes
isn't things that I saw any girls doing.
yeah, that comes to that preparedness that we talked about, the
Yeah.
maturity and just the overall attitude
Mhm.
towards what's happening. And I had conversations with you. In fact, we looked at charts that showed the importance of the score of an ACT. I didn't want to put pressure on you, but I wanted you to know what the deal was. So a lot of schools would have a list of your GPA is this, your ACT is this, here's what
Mhm.
your scholarships will be. So that was something real to have a goal, because it's not just, hey, I need you to do your best.
Mhm.
Here's why you need to do your best, and here's what we can accomplish by you doing your best. And this will open the doors for other schools depending on the budget that we have
Yeah,
set.
yeah. So two things. Now that I'm in college, I think that has lessened because obviously, like, we're older now. Especially the upperclassmen, I think they realize like, okay, we have to be in the real world after the,
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
need to get it together.
Yeah.
I do still see some of that though.
Hmm.
Um, and then secondly, while we're on the topic of ACT, I just want to say that if your kid is wanting to go to college, have them take the ACT, please.
Yeah.
I know not all colleges require it
Hmm.
anymore. I think it's coming back.
It seems to
More
be.
are
Yeah.
requiring it again. But even if they aren't, like I know so many kids in high school that I was like, "Oh, how, like I didn't care, but I was like, "Oh, did you take the ACT? Like, like what's your score?" They're like, "Oh, I didn't take it cuz my college doesn't require it." even if your college doesn't require it, so many
Yeah,
scholarships do.
that's the thing.
So please, please take it. If they get a bad score, it doesn't really matter. But
Mm.
if they get a good one, that can be so helpful.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's something that, and I was going to point that out too. That just because they don't require it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because
mhm.
there could be financial gain for working hard, studying,
Yeah,
doing the pre-test and all that stuff. A few hours, take the test. Whatever happens, happens. But you're trying.
yeah. Have them take it at least once.
Yeah,
After that, it's whatever. But have them take it once.
yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so changing gears a little bit, how do you think paying for college, like how should that discussion go about? How should that be handled? Should the parents be paying for all of it? Should the kid have to chip in? What are the thoughts?
I don't know that I have a thought on how it should be handled, but the conversation needs to happen early so that everybody knows what's going to happen and they know what's expected. Um, that way, you're not looking at a $70,000 college when I'm paying 20,000. You know, and you need to have that conversation about what the costs are, what the parents willing to pay. If nothing, if you can't pay anything, you can't pay anything. If you can pay it all, you can pay it all. Um, Now, early on, I told you exactly what your mom and I would pay.
Yes.
I said, here's how much we'll pay. If you want to go above that, you're going to get loans and you're going to be paying for them for a long time, and it's not fun. If you stay below that, great. I paid for your whole college
Hmm.
experience. So that was something that I thought was important. I had the same kind of conversation with your sister. It was a little different, but you both knew what was going to happen when you went to college, what your mother and I were going to pay, and I think that's important so that again you're able to look at and say, okay, where should I go? What's it going to cost? And again, we have so much information now. You and I would sit down, and with our phones when we were bored, we could look up some different schools, put in your GPA, put in your ACT,
Oh, I love the
put in your
price
state.
calculators
Yeah, we'd
online.
do those price calculators. And it was so interesting to see what the different schools would say. Some of them that we were like, would be, come in at 18, 20,000, are like, okay, that's right at the budget. That can work. Some of them that you were like, why is the school 36 grand? I barely have heard of it.
Yeah.
And how could it be that much more special? Because the truth is, it really doesn't matter where you go. It matters what you do while you're there. We used to have a neighbor that was a recruiter for a large company. Asked him that one day. I was like, "Hey, you look at whether it's a state school, a private school?" He's like, "No." He goes, "The only thing I care about is, um, do they have the degree? Check." He goes, "I don't look at where it came from. I don't look at their GPA." He says, "All we need to know is, was there a degree? Yes. Check. That's all that matters." And also, that's what you got to think about when you're picking schools. I said it's not it's the value in what am I getting out of it, and that's just something that you need to discuss early on and let them know that, hey, it doesn't matter where you go, it matters what you do when you're there. So if you get the good grades, if you're part of the clubs, if you want to be a scientist, you get into the research. If you want to be a writer, you're into the writing programs. If you
Hmm.
all that things what really matters, and that's part of that, discussing the cost. Here's the budget, here's what we can do, here are these great calculators. We looked at so many of them,
Yeah.
and it was kind of fun too, because we'd look at Ivy League, we look at
And I was never going to an Ivy
never going to
League.
go there, um, but we looked at some really good schools, like we looked at Notre Dame's.
Hmm.
I remember that. We looked at some others when we were in the Midwest, so we looked at Creighton.
Yeah, that
We
we'd
looked
like
at,
actually considered. Yeah.
yeah, some places like that, and then when you get back the numbers, you're like, I would be paying that forever,
Yeah.
so maybe that doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah.
And that's where we went with it.
I will say that sometimes I think the college you attend can help, depending on what you want to do afterwards. So if you're looking to get
Yeah.
into grad school, obviously certain colleges are going to help with that. I know in high school I knew a guy who's now going to Stanford,
Yeah.
which I'm sure he's in debt for, or his parents are rich. Actually, his parents are probably rich because I also saw he was at Coachella.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
that's probably.
but I remember he was talking to me about it one day. He's like, "Well, Sophia, you're really paying for that name on your diploma." I'm like,
You are. And
"That's
in a very few instances that matters.
mhm,
And the Ivy Leagues, it matters. Stanford, it matters.
Uh,
There's a few schools like that where it
yeah,
does matter.
yeah. And I was like, that's
Most
great
people
for
don't
you.
go there.
We clearly live in different
Yeah,
worlds, but
yeah,
that's great for
yeah.
you.
Most people's just not an opportunity to have that. And it just, then it goes back to, what did you do while you're
Hmm.
there? How did you maximize your time there and put yourself in the best position to move forward with success? And that's
Hmm.
what you got to do. You got 4 years
Yeah.
to pull that off and put together the best resume that you can while you're in college to lead to your best starting job. And you can do that anywhere. It helps to be at a school that is kind of known for your program, but that's part of the research you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to check the boxes.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I meant more than just like that was a special example, obviously. But
Sure.
yeah, just going to colleges that are known for what you're wanting to do,
Yeah.
I think can be very helpful in that. And
Hmm.
those usually will have the most opportunities once you're there as
Yeah.
well, because
Yeah.
they're known for that for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Is um, you know, you had two schools that you kind of
Hmm.
were going to be narrowed down to, and they both would have been fine.
Yeah.
They both would have done just fine. I think you made the best choice, and I like where you're at. In fact, that's kind of the way I was pushing you the whole
It
time.
was.
But it's I think you could have been fine either. If you got there, did what you need to do to succeed, you would have been fine. And that's what you got to do. It's
Hmm.
totally up to you once you get there.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to break down the process of a college visit a little more for?
Yeah, yeah. I always enjoyed those.
Hmm.
So college visits are great for a couple reasons. First of all, you're getting out of school and I'm getting out of work. I like that.
I did
So
too.
so we always did them midweek, so that I would get out of school, you'd get out of work, or
Other
vice
way.
versa. I'd get out of work, you get out of school. Take a whole day, go have lunch, do the thing. Sometimes they gave you a free lunch, sometimes they didn't, depending where we went. And I like to walk around the campus. I like to hear what the people had to say. You really don't learn a lot that you couldn't have learned online, but you're there. We get to find out, just hear them tell their story, see the people walking around campus. What's it feel like? Drive around the neighborhood. Is my daughter going to be safe here? That's a question I'm going to ask. I'm going to look around and say, do I feel okay with her being here? Um,
You answered yes to that when you sent Isabel to the east side of Des Moines.
well, it's not that bad. There are a lot worse places she could have
Yeah, I
been.
mean, there's
So
not really a awful part
no,
of Des Moines,
no.
but
So I mean, it's the things you want to look at though. What do the dorms look like? If you're going to live in the dorms, what's the commute like if you're going to live at home? There's just so many things to look at, and I enjoyed the visits. I enjoyed eating in the cafeteria. I always liked cafeteria food. I'm a little weird that way when I was in college, and you know, but the thing you want to do is, as a father, you need to step back, let your daughter handle the conversations. Your daughter, help her put together a list of questions that she wants to get answered while you're there, and let her kind of lead the whole program because it's her deal. It's not yours. You can kind of help a little bit, but your job is not to take over.
mhm.
And it's kind of your instinct is to take over. So that's hard for fathers, girl dads sometimes, is to step back, let your daughter be the adult that
Mhm.
she's going to be, and let her take over the conversation.
Yeah, because I know you did some research when Isabel's looking for colleges. Didn't you
Hmm.
see like a golf coach or some sports coach online that was pretty much like the last thing you want to see is a parent that's doing all the talking for
Yeah,
them
yeah,
and is
and overly involved.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's just something that it's their time to shine.
yeah,
It's their time to tell their story and get their questions asked. And then if you have some, of course, ask them. But I should not be taking over on a college visit because it's not my college
yeah,
visit. It's yours.
yeah. And I do like the point you brought up of having them get out of school. Obviously,
Hmm.
you want to encourage them attending school. But
Yeah, but it should be special.
and especially if your kid isn't all that excited about going on college visits and is kind of like, whatever,
Yeah,
this is a way to make it more special, make it something they can look forward to.
yeah, yeah. Plan it in advance. You know, if it's an overnight one, that's great. Yours were local, so we didn't stay
Yeah.
overnight when we went on our visits. But make it an event that you can look forward to. Like I said, for a couple weeks out, get it scheduled, talk about it, do your research, the questions you want to answer, and then have her take a folder. I always had you take a folder with you that has written down so you could open it up and write down some notes if you wanted. They're going to give you a lot of pamphlets and stuff, and maybe a folder, so you put that in there. But you look prepared, you feel prepared, dress nice, and go enjoy the day.
That is another difference between boys and girls. The amount of guys in sweats at
Oh yeah,
college
yeah,
visits
yeah,
was incredible.
yeah, yeah. You could tell. You could definitely tell. Any of the things that we did, the girls always looked like, they were there for business,
Mhm.
and the boys were there because somebody made them.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our last topics,
Hmm.
big debate, living at home or living in dorms.
Okay. Yeah, that's a decision your daughter needs to make. Almost anywhere you live, there's going to be at least one or two colleges that you could
Mhm.
commute to. I mean, I know there's some places rural that maybe that's not a situation,
Where you grew up.
but yeah, where I grew up, I could have driven to a community college about 25 miles away, but a 4-year school, there was not one. I mean, I think hour. I would have had to drive an hour each way. There just really wasn't the opportunities where I live. Um, Most time you do have some choice to make there, and I could have went to the community college and lived at home a
Mhm.
couple years too, I suppose, but it wasn't a decision that I wanted to make to do that. But as a girl dad, I have to find out: do my girls want to live
I
on
like that you
campus?
choose to introduce yourself as that throughout the podcast.
It is the name of the podcast.
It is. I just like that you're reminding us. Carry
Yes,
on.
but as a girl dad, you want to pay some special attention to that because girls and boys are different. We get along with people differently. Um, you could have thrown me in a dorm with almost anybody. I'm going to be fine. I'm not sure that would be the same with you or your sister. And so I think there's the emotional thing. There's how boys make friends, how boys bond with people, um, how they kind of click and just go along. It's different than with girls,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that you have to think about.
Mhm.
Do I want to live with a stranger?
Yeah.
Do I want to live with my friends?
Guys are more likely to just kind of get along with everyone. They usually
Mhm.
have larger, less um tight friend groups,
Yeah,
and then girls tend to have tighter friend groups that are a lot more like deep
yeah,
friendships.
yeah. So
To
it's
add
different.
context.
It's totally different, and so that's a conversation that we had. So I had to find out: are you okay living with us?
Hmm.
All right, because you're trying to be an adult now, trying to be on your own, trying to do your thing. But are you okay living in our
Yeah.
house? And that's something you have to decide. Am I okay living in their house? Because now I'm an adult.
Hmm.
And do I want to be out doing my own thing and not have them know anything about me? Do I want to be there? And that's a conversation again to have early, I think,
Hmm.
because am I going to expect you to be home at 10 o'clock every night while you're a college freshman?
Yeah.
Am I going to expect the same things out of you that I expected while you're in high school?
Yeah.
The answer is really no. I should have. You're an adult now. You're out doing your own thing. You have your own job. You're doing. It's not the same. I mean,
Hmm.
when I was in college, I wasn't checking in with somebody at nine
Yeah.
o'clock. I would like to know that you're somewhere and you're safe. But other than that, it's not my job to figure all that out
Yeah.
for you. And you have to decide: do I want to live with somebody in an 8 by 10 room and walk down the hall to go to the bathroom, walk down the hall to shower with other people in a communal area? Do I want to go eat in the dorm? Do I like mom and dad's food? And so those are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. Am I okay living at home? Am I okay living in dorm? You got to take the money into account too, because I mean, this is so much more than it used to be. I mean, it's like 10. 10 would be cheap. I'm seeing 11 to 12,000 room board
Yeah.
at colleges now, and to me, that's just so ridiculous. You're sharing an 8 by 10 room with somebody, and you're eating dorm food. How can that cost 12 grand? But it does. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind is, you know, do I want to live with somebody? Do I want to pay all that? Because now you can go to a smaller private school if you live at home for less money than you're paying at the cheaper state school, but you're living in a dorm with somebody.
That's in our case
In
specifically.
our case
That
specifically,
was how it ran down when I was picking my college.
yeah. So you had to decide that: do I want to go to the big school where I'm going to be a couple hours away? Would have been a great decision. I would have been behind it all the way. I think the opportunities were there, but I'm paying the same And then a lot of people would say, well, I don't want to pay the same to live with my parents as I
Yeah.
could pay to live somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the decision you want to make? That's the decision
Mhm.
only you can make. I could try to coach it a little bit, but I didn't care. So, at the end of the day, that's your deal to figure out.
Yeah, and I did end up going to the smaller private school and living at home. I go to Drake University. It's about 20, 30 minutes away from us. Um, but something even though I decided to live at home, something I always appreciated was I remember I was talking to you one time and you told me, it's fine if you don't want to live with us. Like, I think
Yeah,
making that clear is important and not
yeah,
being like offended if they are like in a hurry to move out.
yeah.
Because
I can understand that.
yeah, like I think it is a point, they're becoming adults. Naturally, they probably picture
Hmm.
themselves not living at home.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think being okay with that is very important.
yeah. And as long as we're talking about your decision a little bit, when you came to that realization, one of the things you said is a lot of the reasons people go to Iowa, I'm not going to do.
Yeah,
You don't
Iowa
want to do the
University of
sports.
Iowa is the
Yeah,
other
there's your
option. I
other
was
options,
choosing
University of
between.
Iowa, but you're not going to the football games. You don't care. You're not going to the basketball games. The big rec center, you're not going to the rec center. Um, so almost every big marketing thing that
Yeah,
they had, you're like, I mean, it looks good.
yeah.
You could wear a little tiger hawk on your cheek and woo sports, but that's all you would do. You don't. It wasn't a thing that you do, and you're not going to be out partying all night. You just don't do that. So that's another big
As far
draw
as you
at the
know.
big schools. Yeah, that's another big draw at the big schools, though.
Yeah.
And you're just like, there's really no reason for me to be there. I think my better opportunity is to go to the smaller school where I can do a few other things and get involved a little more.
Mhm.
And I was, again, totally behind that decision. I'd kind of been pushing it the whole time, but I was going to be fine no matter what you did. And I think that's part of letting you make your decision. It's not my job.
Mhm.
Not my job to tell you what you're going to do. My job was to say, maybe guide you a little bit, but then also say, here's the money I'm going to pay.
Mhm.
You figure it out from there.
Yeah. I think, I'm a young adult and at this point I should be the one making the decision. That goes for
Hmm.
any uh, college or high school seniors or whenever they're making this decision. Especially you really don't want them like years from now being like, well, you made me go to this college and it's
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
a big decision to force on someone.
Yeah. And especially if they're borrowing money.
Yeah.
You made me go there, and now I've got a $800,000 a month student loan bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that we talked about a lot, was not wanting to owe money because it's so much easier to start out
Mhm.
if you're not making those payments. And you're fortunate enough that your mom and I can help
Yeah.
out with
Yeah,
that.
not everyone's in that
Not
position.
everybody is. Some
Um
people have a lot more, some have a lot less, and you just got to have that honest conversation. This is where we're at, and this is what we can do to help you out.
mhm.
Um, if you want more than that, that's great. You're just going to have to figure out how you're going to pay for it, because we're just not going
Mhm.
to. And again, that's an early on conversation to have.
Yes.
Set the expectations, and then everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
And um, I feel like that was important, that you understood that, and you understood the weight of what excessive loans would do for your lifestyle. We had those
Yeah.
conversations and did the calculators. And again, I think you made a great decision. It's the one I would have made for you, which also helps. But you had all the information. You were able to take that objective look at it, weigh the positives, weigh the negatives, and say, this is what I want to do. And so far, I think it's worked out great. I don't know how it could work out better, really. I think everything's going good for you. So,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
everything's coming in under budget. So I couldn't be happier with that.
yeah, I think that a good spot to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think so. I think we pretty well covered it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as always, thanks so much for watching. What?
I smiled.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, like it, subscribe, do all the things. And yeah, we'll see you later.
All right. Thank you.